So let's talk about The Shining. Today, we think of Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece as, a pillar of horror cinema. But you might be surprised to hear that when it first came out in 1980, the reaction was, well, it was pretty brutal. Critics and audiences just didn't seem to get it. So the question is, how on earth did this movie go from being a critical flop to an absolute, undisputed classic? That's what we're going to figure out. I mean, just get a load of this review from the Washington Post back then. Ponderous, lackluster, the big letdown. Wow. And they weren't the only ones. Variety basically said Kubrick and Nicholson teamed up to completely destroy what made Stephen King's book so terrifying in the first place. So yeah, the initial reviews weren't just mixed, a lot of them were downright hostile. And the difference between then and now is, it's just staggering. I mean, think about this. On one side, the film was so disliked that Stanley Kubrick got nominated for a Razzie for Worst Director. But on the other side, it's now preserved in the National Film Registry. That's a huge deal, an honor that's only for the most important films in American history. Which brings us to the big question, right? What exactly happened here? Did the film change? Or did we? To get to the bottom of that, we have to look a lot closer. We've got to go deep into the cold, empty halls of the Overlook Hotel. Okay, so first up, we have to talk about how this movie was actually made. And that all comes down to Kubrick's, let's call it his methodical madness. He was an infamous perfectionist, and that obsession, that intensity, it shaped every single frame of this film. Let me just throw a number at you. 148. That is the number of takes it supposedly took to film the scene where Halloran explains what shining is to Danny. For one scene. And that's not all. The famous scene with Shelley Duvall backing up the stairs with a bat, they shot that 127 times. This process completely exhausted everyone on set, but what you get on screen is this raw, real tension and fatigue. You can feel it. And Kubrick was a tech pioneer too. The Shining was one of the very first movies to really go all in on the Steadicam. This thing let the camera just glide. It could float down those long, creepy hallways, making you feel like there's some kind of ghostly presence there with you. You know those amazing shots following Danny on his big wheel? The sound cutting out as he goes from the wood floor to the carpet? The camera isn't just watching him, it feels like it's stalking him. And because we're watching, it feels like it's stalking us, too. And that brings us to the next big piece of the puzzle, the famous, very public feud between Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick. See, King, the guy who wrote the book, has never, ever been shy about how much he dislikes this movie. And the heart of the disagreement really came down to two completely different ideas of what the story was about. In King's book, Jack Torrance is a good guy, an alcoholic trying to do better, who gets corrupted by the hotel, an evil outside force. But Kubrick, he was way more interested in the evil that was already brewing inside Jack. He cast Jack Nicholson, and King's big complaint was that he looks crazy from the very first scene. The characters, where the evil comes from, even the ending, it's all fundamentally different from the book. So, you have to understand, for Stephen King, The Shining was a really personal story. It was about the real-life horrors of addiction, of a family falling apart. The hotel was just an amplifier for all that. But in his view, Kubrick's movie just threw all that human tragedy away for a much colder, more abstract kind of horror. He basically felt like Kubrick totally missed the point of his book. But here's the thing. It's that very coldness, that ambiguity, that has given this film such incredible staying power. Kubrick didn't just film a story in a hotel. He built a puzzle box, one that's full of secrets that people are still trying to figure out, all these decades later. And that leads us to the biggest question of all, the one that has fascinated everybody for so long. If it's not just a simple story about ghosts, then what is it? What is Kubrick actually trying to tell us with all these bizarre, unsettling little details? The theories that have popped up are just wild. Some people are convinced the film is a giant metaphor for the genocide of Native Americans. You see all the native artwork, and they mention it's built on an Indian burial ground. Others point to weird clues like German typewriters and the number 42 and say it's a hidden commentary on the Holocaust. And then, of course, there's the big one. The theory that the whole movie is Kubrick's secret confession for helping NASA fake the moon landing. And Kubrick's tricks go even deeper than that, down to the very architecture of the hotel. The set was built to be geographically impossible. Seriously, you'll see windows in an office that couldn't possibly have an exterior wall, doors that open up to nowhere, hallways that just don't connect right. And this wasn't an accident.
The film's own producer confirmed it was on purpose, saying they wanted the audience to deliberately not know where they were going. We feel lost because the movie is literally designed to make us feel lost.
So you take all of this, the insane production, the big artistic debates, all those hidden meanings, and it all adds up to a complete 180 in the film's reputation, cementing a legacy that is just undeniable. You can really see how much the critical opinion has shifted over the years. What was once brushed off, even hated, has been completely re-examined and is now celebrated as a work of genius. This is a film that didn't just age well, it's like it took us decades to finally catch up to it. And its influence today, you can't even measure it. The creepy twins, the elevator pouring out a river of blood, Jack shouting, "Here's Johnny." These aren't just movie scenes anymore. They're part of our culture. They get parodied and referenced in everything from The Simpsons to Ready Player One. The film has basically become part of our shared language.
Which brings us to the very end. That last, haunting shot of the film. The camera slowly pushes in on this old, crowded photograph on the hotel wall. The caption reads, "Overlook Hotel, July 4th Ball, 1921. And who's right there? Front and center, smiling right at us? Jack Torrance.
So what could this possibly mean? Was Jack some kind of reincarnation, doomed to repeat this horrible cycle forever? Did the hotel somehow absorb his soul, making him a permanent part of its violent history? Or, and this is the most chilling possibility, has Jack, as the ghost of Grady suggests, always been the caretaker? That's the film's greatest secret, and it's the reason we keep coming back to the Overlook, forever looking for answers.